For 20 years, I needed alcohol and marijuana just to function, just to relax, just to get some sleep, and really just to feel normal. So how did all of this happen? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you how that happened and how I got out of it. So I had my first drink when I was 18 years old. A friend of mine purchased a few beers for me on my 18th birthday at a restaurant. And I remember having those beers and feeling pretty good. Like I had a good buzz. I was feeling pretty nice. And I knew right then and there that I wanted to have this feeling over and over and over again if I could. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. A friend of mine and myself, we would cut some of our classes in our last year of high school, and we would go outside to a local park and we would drink. And it was fun. You know, we just saw it as good, innocent fun. And we felt cool as well. Like, we felt that, look at us, we're cutting our last class and we're going outside to drink. We're so cool. And then, drinking became something that was casual. Anytime that I would go out somewhere with friends, I had to drink. It really became necessary. Drinking became necessary just to have fun. So if I were going to a birthday party or a restaurant or some kind of function, drinking was essential to relax and have a good time. In short order, I also began to drink by myself, not just with friends. And so after a long day of work, I would want to go home and have a drink. Or after, being in class or something like that and working really hard, at the end of the day, I would want to go home and have a drink. So I would begin to drink on my own and also, drink while I was out at a function or out with friends. I started off with beer, started drinking beer, but after trying red wine, I found that worked a lot better for me because I saw that I could drink a smaller amount of this and still have a really nice buzz. I had also given rum and whiskey a try, and I liked those too because I saw the same thing, that I could drink a smaller amount of those and still get a very nice buzz from them. So this is where my drinking stops being solely about having fun and having a good time and becomes more of a need and a necessity. I was the kind of guy that had a very active mind, even an overactive mind, you could say. And this was particularly the case before going to bed. I found that before going to sleep, I would feel very anxious. My mind would be racing. I'd be thinking a lot about the things that I did that day. And I'd be thinking a lot about all the things that I had to do the next day. And I could not just relax and go to bed. And this became a real problem for me. So I turned to what I was at the time already familiar with, which was alcohol. And in particular, I had tried red wine as a sleep aid. And I found that it worked like a miracle cure. I was able to have 2 glasses of red wine, and I was really able to wind down and relax, and the anxiety would go away. All those racing thoughts would dissipate, and I was finally able to just wind down and go to sleep. And what had happened was that over time, I began to build a tolerance to the amount of red wine that I was drinking. So in short order, I would need to drink more than 2 glasses in order to fall asleep. Now I needed 3 glasses. And then eventually I needed to drink an entire bottle, a 750 milliliter bottle of red wine. And later on, that continued to increase, and I would need to buy a full 1.5 liter bottle of wine and maybe drink a little bit more than half of that in order to sufficiently relax to go to sleep. So the tolerance would build. And also, I found that the hangovers were becoming difficult to tolerate. I would wake up with bad headaches. Sometimes I would feel nauseous. Throughout the day, I would feel dizzy and disoriented and lacking energy. One thing I did to try to counteract the severity of the side effects is that I would attempt to cut back on the amount of red wine that I was drinking at nighttime. So instead of having 4 glasses of wine, I would attempt to cut that back to 3 or to 2. But that never really worked in any significant way. If I was able to cut it back to, say, 2 glasses a night instead of 4, that would only work for maybe 1, at best, maybe 2 nights. And then I would go right back to the standard amount that I was drinking. And in my experience, I have always found that if I am attempting to cut back, if I have access to drink more, if there's more red wine or just alcohol in general that's there, capping myself at a certain amount has never really worked for me personally. If there's more there that I can drink, I'm gonna want to drink it more than likely, and so I would just take advantage of that and drink more. So that strategy of attempting to cut back, it either only worked for 1 or 2 nights, or it just didn't work at all. So around this time, a second substance use habit takes hold, and that is smoking marijuana. So my first time smoking marijuana, I recall not getting high. I just coughed a lot and just felt strange, just weird, but I didn't get high. But the second time that I smoked it, that is when I felt amazing. I felt euphoric. I felt really happy. And I was there with my friends, just, laughing and having a great time. I felt like I had just, won the lottery or something. I felt really great. And just like with the first time I got buzzed on drinking beer, I knew that this was a feeling that I wanted to have all the time if I could. Some friends of mine and myself, we would get together several times a week, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and we would roll up joints and we would smoke them after class, after work, or just recreationally at a park or something on the weekend. I would get high and I would have a really great time. And in short order, maybe a month and a half into that smoking casually and socially, I decided that, I no longer wanted to wait for those occasions to get high. I decided that, I want to be able to do this anytime I want to do this. And so I started smoking on my own. The frequency with which I would smoke drastically increased. I was no longer smoking 2 times a week or 3 times a week. Now I was smoking every day by myself. I would normally smoke upon waking up. I would smoke perhaps before eating lunch, before going to work, after returning home from work, and before going to bed. And so, every single day I would smoke 4 times a day, 5 times a day, something like that. This became something that I really needed to be functional, right? Over time, I had become so accustomed to smoking, and essentially I was always high. I was always high. There was hardly ever a time where I was completely sober. I would always need to be smoking to get high, just to maintain and just to be sane, right? I would need to smoke just to function. It came to the point where, yes, I felt really great while I was smoking, or while I was high, and at a point where I just needed it now. It wasn't just a matter of having fun. It was something that I needed just to function, as a normal person. But at the same time, I was also neglecting my own health, right? In particular, I was not eating well. I was subsisting mainly on snacks. I would have a lot of snacks. I would have a lot of junk food, and I wasn't really drinking that much water either. I was drinking mainly pop and juice and high sugar drinks like that. So at this point, it's been about 3 years where I'm smoking up and I'm getting high about 5 times a day, every single day. I'm also not taking care of myself. I'm subsisting mainly on snacks and junk food. I'm not drinking enough water. And on top of that, I was finishing up university at the time. So I was going to class probably 4 days a week. And I'm also working, and I'm working about 4 times a week as well. So this combination of smoking up multiple times every single day, not taking care of myself and not eating well and hydrating well, and overexerting myself with studying and school and working, it all catches up to me in a really bad way, where I'm at work one day and out of nowhere, all of a sudden, I just have a horrible feeling come over me. And I almost ended up completely blacking out and passing out there. I was working retail at the time, so I almost blacked out right there on the sales floor. I had to go get checked out at the emergency room. It was a horrible experience, and I thought that maybe I just didn't sleep well and it was a bit of a one-off. And I came back to work a few days later, hoping for a better outcome, but I didn't change anything. Right? I was still, smoking up 5 times a day. I still wasn't eating well, and basically the same thing ensued. And I had a second experience where I almost completely blacked out on the sales floor. After experiencing that essentially it sufficiently scared me out of wanting to smoke marijuana anymore. I didn't want to do it because I didn't want this to continue happening. And so after that, and after 3 entire years of smoking every single day, roughly 5 times every single day, and being high all the time for the entire 3 year span, that experience sufficiently scared me enough to the point where I didn't want to continue with this, and so I stopped smoking marijuana at that point. So you would think that after that horrible and horrifying experience, that I had learned my lesson, and that I was going to strive for a prolonged period of sobriety, which was much needed at this point. But no, I did not learn my lesson. And I just went back to my old habit of drinking every single night before going to bed. And so this continued throughout the years. And at a certain point, I decided that I wanted to relocate and work and live abroad, which I did do. I worked and lived abroad for about 2 years. And at first, I did not know anyone. I didn't have any friends. And there was a language barrier. Now over time, I did make friends, and I did manage to, learn the language to a certain extent. But at first, I did not have that. And I felt isolated. I felt lonely and I felt depressed at times. And I would deal with this and cope with this with my usual drinking habits. And I continued with that throughout the entire time that I was living and working abroad. I continued to experience the severe hangover symptoms, the headaches, the nausea, the feelings of low energy and weakness. And in addition to that, this time I began to feel a pain in my liver. I began to feel this liver pain. Now, I've since then I've been to a doctor and I've been checked out, and I'm good now. But this was something I was experiencing at the time, and it really concerned me and worried me. But I did not tell anyone about it at that time that it was happening. I made my own efforts to try and counteract this. I would try to have stints of sobriety. I would try my best. I might make it to 3 days or 4 days without having a drink. And I mean, at that time, 3 or 4 days was a really long time for me to not have a drink. Like that was a big deal. And after making it to 3 or 4 days, I did feel a little bit better, but the normal stressors of life would get to me, and I would just go back to drinking after the 3 or 4 days. And it was just a pattern and a habit that was so ingrained. It was difficult to go for too long without doing that, without drinking. So at this point, after about 20 years of regular drinking, regular routine drinking, and at many times heavy drinking before going to bed, I had decided that, I needed to take a very honest look at my life. And although, drinking was helping me to relax at nighttime and go to bed, it was also causing a plethora of problems for me. And I really had to come to terms with that, and be honest with myself about that. I always felt tired. I had almost no energy. I was dragging myself through each day, just barely making it through each day. I felt sick. I just felt sick and tired of always feeling sick and tired. And, that was the point where I decided that I really need to make an effort to not do this anymore, right? To stop this heavy drinking, to stop this nighttime drinking habit that I've had for a very long time at this point. And so I started out with trying my best to making it 1 week of not drinking. I just basically took it a day at a time. I was able to hit the 3-day mark, the 5-day mark, and the full week. And by the time I made it to about 5 days, that's where I noticed that I felt quite significantly better than I did when I first started. And after I made it to about a week and having felt better, I became curious and interested to know, how would I feel if I keep up with this? How would I feel if I keep going? And so 1 week became 2 weeks, which became 1 month, which became 60 days, and so on and so forth. And I just kept on going with it. I felt a determination to keep going with it. And I sit here presently before you with 1 year and about 8 months of complete total sobriety. And, it's important to remember that, this was not my first time or my first attempt trying to have a long sustained period of sobriety. I mentioned it already, but there were numerous attempts where things were getting bad, and I knew I had to I had to refrain from all this heavy drinking. I had to do something about this. And again, there were many attempts where I had very short stints of sobriety, but they never lasted long, But this time I realized the stakes were much higher, and things were much more serious, and that I had to be more serious about this. And I know that if I were to drink again, that's probably where I would go back to. There have been a handful of instances where I've almost had a drink. Like I've gotten very close to it, where the stress of life has just become overwhelming or overbearing, or something very difficult comes up. And I've been very close and on the verge of having a drink, but I've always managed not to, right? And I've defended my sobriety with everything I have. It's very important to me. Because this time is different, and I understand what I'm going to be going back to if I even just drink once. I could spiral right back to where I was in the matter of a few days to a week. So, this is far from my first attempt of doing this. I also wanted to discuss how my addictions affected me in terms of my friendships and social connections. There were several people in my life who were very important to me, who were near and dear to me. And in the course of a disagreement, of course, I was almost always intoxicated. And I would say something that I shouldn't have said. I would say something that I didn't mean. I was not in control of my emotions, and I wasn't thinking straight. Right? I wasn't thinking rationally, and I would say these things that I shouldn't have said, and as a result of that, we would fall out. Looking back at that now, I can see how my addiction did also cost me in terms of friendships and relationships, and I really wish that I hadn't acted like that, but this is how I behaved sometimes, even towards those who were close to me and important to me, during the course of my active addiction. So at this point, at 1 year and 8 months of total sobriety, I am making my best effort to help others who might be out there struggling with addictions. I have pursued my certification as a sobriety life coach, and I've built my sober life coaching website, www.kickthehabitcoaching.com. I'm also making my best effort to connect with people, to share my story and to connect with others. Maybe there's someone out there that might see this, hear my story, and be able to look at, what's happened with me. And you may be able to learn something from it or gather something from it. I hope to be able to connect, build a sense of community, and also to provide value and education on topics like addiction, recovery, and sobriety. If you guys really enjoyed the video, I would ask you to give it a like and continue and to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos on these topics. And let me know in the comment section generally what you guys thought about my story. What do you think about it? Is there something that you would like to share about your story with addictions, or someone who might be struggling with addictions? Please do feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. And if you're out there and you're going through it right now, just know that you are not alone in this. There are people out there who are going through this, and I know that you can do this. If I was able to overcome these horrible habits, these addictive habits that I have, I know that it is possible for you to do so as well. So I thank you guys all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.